Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Just recently, I was asked by somebody, why do I not like the Baker Act? Why am I putting out all this content that says the Baker Act is this, the Baker Act is that? And I said, there's a number of reasons that I don't like the Baker Act, but there's also a number of reasons that I do like the Baker Act. And so I'm going to talk to you in this video about why I don't like the Baker Act, and then I'm going to do a follow-up about why I do like it, because it does have its pluses and it's a powerful tool when used correctly. So, look, there's a couple of things that really bother me about the Baker Act. First of all, just remember what the Baker Act is and is not. It's not a treatment statute. It's a statute that allows the state of Florida to take temporary custody of somebody when there's an immediate need for intervention caused by some type of mental health crisis, i.e. they may be suicidal or threatening to harm themselves or somebody else. So that's the idea about the Baker Act. But here's the big rub, okay? The first major problem is that once somebody gets Baker Acted, nobody even knows you're there, right? There's no oversight. There's nobody watching. Not like a criminal case where if you get arrested and taken to the local county jail, if you can't post a scheduled bond, you automatically get to see a judge in the morning to address the legality of the arrest, your right to counsel, and what reasonable conditions are of your release, because you're presumed innocent. We don't want to keep you sitting in the county jail for 3 months, 6 months, or however long the criminal case takes to resolve. But if you have been Baker Acted, nobody knows you're there. There's no automatic intervention by the court to make sure they do it right, which does seem a little bit odd, right? You haven't done anything wrong. No one's accused you of doing anything wrong. In fact, there's a mental health crisis going on here, and yet you don't get any of the things, the due process rights we would associate automatically with a criminal case. So that is my big hang up. And because nobody knows you're there, it's very easy to abuse you, meaning they make you do things, go to group sessions, give you medications, forcibly medicate you, and do things that you don't clinically need. Okay, so that's another reason I don't like it. One other reason, and I'm just sort of thinking as I go here, is you can't sue the facility as a general rule, because the facility, even if it is a private facility, is a licensed agent of the state's mental health system. They enjoy immunity like any other state actor, right? That's why it's very hard to sue the police. They enjoy sovereign immunity. When I was prosecutor, I enjoyed sovereign immunity as a prosecutor. As long as I acted as a prosecutor, obviously if I went out in my car and I was drunk and killed somebody, I don't enjoy immunity for that because I wasn't acting as a prosecutor. But as a general rule, I enjoyed immunity. And the statute even speaks to that. The only sort of, for lack of a better word, general exception to that would be where if you got harmed in the facility. For instance, I had a young man that was beaten up. I had another girl that was unfortunately sexually assaulted. The facility has a duty to keep you safe, right? I mean, men and women should be kept apart, right? And obviously if there's somebody in the facility who could potentially harm others, well, they have a duty to keep that person away from you. So there's that. One of the other things I don't like about is the fact that it's very easy for the facility to completely cut your loved one off from you, right? I mean, somebody goes into a facility and then the family calls us and says, I can't get a hold of the person. I've tried to call my loved one. I've left messages. No one ever calls me back. I've left messages for the doctor. Nobody ever calls me back. I left messages for the social worker. Nobody ever calls me back. And now I can't get a hold of anybody. And so it becomes very frustrating. And for the poor individual who is in the facility, and FYI, I've had a family member Baker Acted, and I was there when it all went down. So I kind of sort of know what this feels like. They are cut off from the world. I mean, no, like I said, nobody knows they're there. And they're told, sorry, you can't call anybody, no access to phone's broken, And so the person just is literally on an island, and they're at the behest of the individuals who are running the facility. And I guess one other issue, and this is not a finite list, but one other issue is the sort of secrecy that goes on with these things, right? If the facility, which is an agent of the state, files a petition for placement, there's going to be a placement hearing, or that's the way it's supposed to work. And sometimes what happens is that there's a hearing, and the person who is the patient who's being detained by the facility doesn't find out about it until literally like an hour before, minutes before, when somebody from the public defender's office comes and speaks to them and said, facility wants to keep you another week, another month. What do you want to do? And they're like, well, hold on a second. Nobody ever told me this was happening. I would have liked to have hired a private lawyer. I'd like to fight this thing. Or sometimes we get a call from a family and they say, you know, my loved one was in there for a week or 10 days or 2 weeks, and I just found out they had a hearing. I wasn't invited. In fact, we didn't even know about it. And now I'm told my loved one can't come home for another 45 days. So there's this whole veil of secrecy. And I'm sorry, I was just a little lost for words there, because really the whole thing is supposed to be confidential, right? This is umbrella of confidentiality, but what really goes on is it's all done in secrecy because there's nobody watching. Remember, nobody knows you're there. So the facility can do all of this fun stuff without really the risk of being sued for any of it. And lo and behold, all these crazy things happen. So this is just a few of the things that I don't like about the Baker Act. I will talk about what I do like about it, because when it's done right, it is a life-saving tool. But just a few things to consider if your loved one has been Baker Acted. And if you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you could, subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.